Hey everyone, this is Jesse, and you're listening to a B-side episode of Set Lusting Bruce. On these special episodes, we step outside the Springsteen universe and shine a light on the artists, stories, and passions that bring people joy. Not every guest is a Bruce fan, and that's the fun of it. Today's conversation is all about music, memories, or creative spark that moves them. Every joy counts, and every fan has something worth sharing. So settle in, enjoy this detour down a different musical highway. Let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of Set Lusting Bruce, your podcast all about Bruce Springsteen, his music, and mostly his fans. I am your host, Jesse Jackson, but we are getting off the Bruce train tonight, though I'm sure he will come up. We're talking podcasting. We're talking about those lads from Ireland, U2. Holly is here. She is one half of the duo that does What Difference Does It Makes. We had her other half earlier, and I kept bugging Holly, you got to join me, got to join me. And she finally said, enough already, Jesse, I'll join you. Welcome, Holly. How you doing?
Thank you. I'm great. I'm actually very excited to be here, and I appreciate you indulging me on veering off from Bruce a little bit today. So thank you.
One of the things that when I first was planning this, there was a guy named Rob Southgate who owned the network I was part of at the time, Southgate Media. And I was doing a Doctor Who podcast for him. And I reached out to him and I said, I want to do a Bruce Springsteen podcast. And he's okay, what's a Bruce Springsteen podcast? I said, I'm going to talk about Bruce. I'm going to discuss fans. And we're going to be about the fans, the people and why they love music. And he says, that sounds great. He said, but hearing you talk about this, it reminds me of my wife's fandom of Wilco. We are huge Wilco fans. He says, you might want to do episodes featuring other bands. And I said, okay, I'll call those B-side episodes. And so from the very beginning, I have had people, and in fact, when I'm pitching my show to someone to guest, I tell them, and it doesn't have to be Bruce, whatever you're passionate about, we can have a conversation.
Yes, I love that idea because we're all music fans, right?
Yes, absolutely. Why don't you tell us a little about yourself, Holly?
Okay, I'm not sure how far back you want to go, but I'll go to third grade, which was when
Okay.
I moved to California from New York. My family moved to Los Angeles, and I
From New
loved
York?
from New York.
Wow,
Yes.
talk about a culture
Yeah.
change, right?
For a kid in third grade, though, that's not,
As big?
it's a big deal, but I think you're much more adaptable in third
Yes,
grade.
probably.
Yeah. Yeah. Two weeks into third grade, but I discovered radio and I listened to 93 KHJ. And on the weekends, I would call and just request songs. And it was the top 40 station. It was on AM. And I fell in love with the radio, with the personalities on the radio. At the time was probably Rick Dees might have been on KHJ at the time. And I love music. Music was always on in my house, and I knew I loved music, but I also fell in love with radio. When I'm in third grade, I didn't know that you can actually make a career of radio. It was just something I enjoyed. And fast forward, going through all the musical stages, which we can talk about anytime you want because I've done it all, I've loved it all. But in college, I went to Cal State Northridge. I think Dave probably mentioned this to you. That's where we met.
Yeah.
I was originally a psychology major, and then in my third year, I thought communications. I can do this. I love this. This is what I want to do. And I wanted to be on the radio originally. And when I told my parents, it's such a weird thing because not all parents are supportive of someone who wants to go into a business like that. It's the unknown. My mom was a teacher and my dad had his own business, but they were totally supportive. They were ecstatic that I found something that I was really passionate about. So in college, I interned at our local radio station, Power 106, which was an urban station. Got familiar with the radio business, and after college, I got my first job at Westwood One Radio Networks, and that's a syndication company. And I had an entry level position, but I ended up working on sold syndicated programming all over the world. I produced radio programs I was never on the air. I was only on the air on a pirate radio station when I was in college. I didn't even work on our college station. And I made a career in radio. I loved it. I know the personalities. I know I just being able to combine the music with radio has it's been so fulfilling, so rewarding, and I have loved every minute of it. I've done a variety of other jobs in radio. I worked for a Spanish language network, syndication also. I speak Spanish, and I worked for a company that produced TV commercials for radio stations. So here locally, if you listen to Kiss FM, we didn't produce for Kiss FM, but when you see them on television, I helped develop those and sold those around the world. So yeah, it's been fun. That's my the career background.
That's your elevator pitch. I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Thank you.
I always like to start at the beginning. So it sounds like you had wonderfully supportive parents, but what kind of music were they listening to?
Oh, they were listening to Bruce.
Okay.
That's where I got they were listening to the Eagles and to Bob Dylan and to Fleetwood Mac, and Gordon Lightfoot was huge for them. And this was my foundation. I can't imagine where I would have found my love and my passion for that music, it's part of my daily life, if not for them. And nobody played, everyone just listened. And yeah.
So I find I've been doing this for a while, humble brag, and I find that people break into two categories, and that's an overgeneralization, but the people who can't stand their parents' music, and then when they hit 30, they go, wow, that Johnny Cash guy that dad liked, he's pretty good. Or people who love their parents' music, and then when they went to find their own, the basket got bigger. It isn't
Yeah.
like you had to pick one or the other. Sounds like you were one, the basket just got bigger.
Oh yeah, and my basket is huge. I have always liked a wide variety of music, but if yeah, I mean that is where my passion for music. I had it from an early age. I have these memories of driving with my parents in the car at night, where I'm in the back seat falling asleep and hearing the Eagles and all these bands, and I love the music. I love that it's associated with my parents. But yeah, I'm hoping the same for my kids. And I think it has, I know it has been the same for my kids.
Yeah, I grew up and sorry to use a Blues Brother joke, but I grew up in a family that liked both kinds of music, country and Western. Though that's not true. My mom, in fact, I'm going through a series of my mom, when she passed away a year or so ago, I inherited all her records. And so I'm going through them. And last week I did Modern Sounds of Country Music from Ray Charles. This week I'm going to do a Fats Domino record. And there's tons of what I growing up was a K-Tail record, the best collection.
Oh, yeah.
So not all of them are classics, but my mom loved Bobby Darin and Fats Domino. My dad loved Johnny Cash and Merle Haggard and Willie Nelson. So we listened to country music exclusively, unless mom was putting it on a record like a Fats Domino record or something. So my cousins could not believe that at 9 years old, I could not name all four Beatles. This is like in
Yeah.
68, 69. I'm like, we don't hear the
Oh,
Beatles in my house.
wow.
So you mentioned finding the radio. Was it an AM clock radio?
Oh, God, yes. We had a few in the house. They were all alarm clocks, of course.
Yeah.
And yeah, I remember even earlier than when we moved to California having like an orange, just a cool clock of the time. But yes,
Yeah.
always a clock radio in my room.
Yeah. That's when I first discovered my own music. Because now, unlike me, like when my son was growing up, I would often let him pick the music. But that was not something that happened in my household. Mom or dad picked the music. So when you had that little AM clock radio and you turned it to KLOU 1600 in Lake Charles, Louisiana, you got to hear the music you wanted to hear.
Yeah.
And that was huge.
Yeah. So what was it for you? Was it AM? Was it pop music
Oh,
on
yeah.
AM?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, I joke now, like the FM station when I was in high school, that's what the druggies listened to, right? I had to stay away from that. Also, I remember talking to someone I went to high school with in high school, and I was like, but you can't sing along on the songs on FM. And she says, that's part of the joy. And I was like, to know me, I wanted that AM listening
Yeah.
to, and I graduated high school in 77, so I'm older than dirt. Bachman Turner Overdrive, Electric Light Orchestra, Barry Manilow, Casey and the Sunshine Band, the Eagles, Fleetwood Mac, just Firefall, just this tons of music. Had no idea that Blinded by the Light was written by this guy named Bruce Springsteen. I just loved that version. So yeah, it was joy to me.
Yeah. It's the way you describe it. So we moved from AM to FM, even though we still had great pop music stations on
Yeah.
FM. But by the time I got to high school, like you described, and I'm not that much younger. I graduated in '83.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so we had two like flagship FM rock and roll stations. We had KMET and we had KLOS. And at the other end of the dial was KROQ, which was the new wave alternative station. It was in the country. It was the alternative music station. We got the synth, we got all the new wave stuff. So my love, like you talk about the baskets, I love the rock and roll on KMET and KLOS, but once I heard the Go-Go's in 1981, I gravitated to KROQ. And that's the station we base our podcast on. I'm sure I
Yeah.
know Dave mentioned to you.
Yeah.
And he took the move. He probably moved to K Rock a little bit earlier than I did in full and gave up the rock and roll in the KMET. KLOS was 95.5 and KMET was 94.7
Yeah.
and KROQ was 106.7. But I was still listening to both. I saw the art at both formats of
Yeah.
artists, and yeah, I embraced it all.
Yeah. By the time I graduated from college, Nova 104 was the FM station that I listened to. Helped that I knew a couple of people. I got to be friends with a couple of people who were disc jockeys there
Yeah.
and expanded my music. And old band talk. The beauty, though, of 70s AM radio was you could get Cat Stevens, you could get Ray Stevens, and Lou Rawls, all in the same block of music. And it just was it. I often joke that if SiriusXM would give a shuffle channel that says basically we're going to play a song from every one of our different things and just
Hmm.
on one feed, I would probably like to hear that, right? Because I'm like, oh, now, whoa, now we're hearing a little heavy metal. Oh, some Latino rock. Oh, that
That's
that would be
actually
fun.
that's a great idea. I think why not pitch that? It's not like
Yeah,
they don't have enough channels.
yeah, just as it. So it let's talk about you said one of the things you wanted to talk about was you two. And so the question I always ask if it's Bruce, but can you remember when you first discovered them and what about their music spoke to you, Holly?
Oh yes. The first time I saw them was in 1983.
Okay.
It was the war tour. And so I was a senior in high school. I went with a boyfriend who at the time he was into them. And I didn't really know that much about them before I saw them. And then War was their third album. So of course, after I saw them the first time, I'll talk about that first. They were, they were so passionate. And most people by now have seen something of U2 from very early on. They were so passionate and so like sincere. They still are. I still find them to be that way.
Yeah.
Even it was Christian tinged rock, which was not my thing. I usually would turn away from something like that, but their passion, all four of them playing together, Bono's voice and Edge's guitar, it's everything. It was just really the passion and the show that they put on. So they play in 1983, they played a venue called the LA Sports Arena.
Okay.
I can't remember offhand how many it seats, but the year before they had played at a small club in LA called the Country Club. It was in the San Fernando Valley. Maybe it was 1,000 people at most, and they'd blown up in between. And I wish I had seen that show, but totally worthy of it. But they played when I saw them at the sports arena. They played like they gave it everything, and they played almost like they were at a small club. Bono took advantage. He climbed around the rafters.
Yeah.
He took a kid on his shoulders. He did all the stuff that we can see in archives now. But yeah, I was all in after I saw them, and I went back to Boy in October, and I've been all in ever since.
So I often joke that there's two kinds of people. The people that go see Bruce Springsteen and go, wow, that was long. And the other people that go, oh my God, when can I do this again? And it sounds like that was your YouTube experience. Oh my God, I've had my first hit, and now when can I get another one?
Yeah. Yes. And I've seen them every tour since.
I always reference the amount of time, didn't mean to interrupt you, but
No,
the
please.
amount of times you've seen an artist is not a fair barometer of how big of a fan you are. There are people that have never seen their favorite artist perform that are huge fans. But are you someone it counts? And if so, how many?
That's funny. I don't count. I can tell you I've seen them on every tour
Okay.
in Los Angeles. I'm not, I'm a traveler to shows with my husband, who is a rabid Rush fan and Evanescence. I have traveled with him to see those bands who I've
Yeah.
seen just as much as I've seen you too, but I haven't traveled to see you too. Although I did see Bono do his Stories of Surrender. I saw it here in Los Angeles, and I was in Paris visiting my son, my husband and I, and we went to see it there, and we took him to see Bono.
Yeah.
But I don't count. I tried to, as I was preparing for this, I tried to guess maybe 20, maybe more.
Mhm.
But yeah, I know it's not
No, no,
that's a
that's
good point.
fine.
It's not a barometer. No,
No.
it's not
Yeah.
because I have the passion. I dropped out, didn't drop out of them, but my fandom didn't like wane. But during songs of when they released the album on iTunes, remember,
Yeah.
and everybody was up in arms about this, I didn't I wasn't like first in line to download those albums for a period of time, but my
Yeah.
fandom has never really wavered.
It is just amazing. You made me smile when you said how much you would have liked to seen them the year before that thing. It doesn't matter when I talk to people and they find Bruce. First off, when I ask them, usually the word only is included before the number.
Yeah.
Only 50, only 10, only 103. Just it's always only. And the other one, I had a guy on Holly that had his first time was the era when the I've seen the future of rock and roll and it's Bruce Springsteen, that era.
Okay.
And he said, but Jesse, just think all those shows that if I had known about him when he was doing those college campuses, I could have seen him. And I'm like, this is the definition of greed in a good way. He's been seeing Bruce since 75
Yeah.
and he wishes he could have seen more. So,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, because you want everything. You want to taste everything they've done. When you feel that way about a band, I get that.
Yeah.
I would, God, yeah. And I feel that way about live music, the bands that I love anyway.
Yeah.
There's nothing like it. It just, you can taste it. It's so good. It brings
I,
so much joy.
when we all were locked down in the pandemic and we felt like we would never get live music again, do you remember your first show afterwards?
I don't.
By the way, I can't remember mine either. I think it was the Eagles, the Hell Freezes, the Hotel California tour. They were
Yeah.
doing that. I think that was it, but I'm not sure. It was probably a smaller show. Like I have a friend named Sarah Hickman who's a musician, and it might have been the first time I saw her. Like we
Okay.
went and saw her for the first time after the pandemic. I've seen Sarah probably 50, 70 times. And I we found her in 1988
Oh.
and she was playing at a little club in Dallas and we saw her and one of my great claims for fame is her first album. In her thank you note she has Jesse, Linda and the baby because Linda was pregnant with Chris at the time. Chris is now 36.
Oh.
Yeah, in fact I was very proud. Sarah posted as we're talking about this is January 28th. Bruce put out a new song and Sarah on her Facebook page posted the link to the song and said, "So proud of Bruce standing up." Yeah,
Yes, and thank you. I read the lyrics, but I haven't had time to listen to it yet, so that'll be what I'm doing right after this.
very nice.
Yeah.
So, do you have stories from U2 shows that you want to share? I love that, by the way, your face just lit up in smiles.
That's funny. I don't have, thank you. I don't have, let me see, taking my son to see Bono, which was only 2 or 3 years ago now, was
Yeah,
that delight for me
yeah, I
to get
bet.
for him to
How old is
experience
he?
Bono. He's 23
Okay.
now, but we took him when he was a junior in college when he was studying in France, and we were going, and it just so happened to coincide, and we were getting, and he was all in. He knows how I feel about U2, and he hears them, and he would probably recognize them, but he's never seen them, and he probably would never listen to an album himself. So that was for sure a highlight. The first show that I went with a boyfriend, and the Alarm opened for them. And I don't know if you know the band The Alarm, Mike Peters. I became also a lifelong fan of theirs at the same time. So that was it. That's a great memory because you know how it is when you discover an opening, when you really fall for an opening act, it's really rare.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, Sarah was opening for Miss Molly and the Passions. Miss Molly was a blues kind of Janis Joplin singer from Lake Charles, where I was from, Beaumont area. And she was just amazing. She had a voice, that style of Janis Joplin, and Sarah was opening for her. And so it was just kind of great. They're like, wow, she's amazing. And yeah, it's really special when you find someone like that. You go, who's this again? And back then you couldn't post it on your phone. You had to, on your ticket stub or maybe write down, oh, I need to check this person out.
Yeah, that was, so you did. You discovered her that way.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Oh, God,
Hmm.
that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they're just probably a handful that I could
Hmm.
list off, but that's always a treat. So that's memorable, and that made it even more memorable.
Yeah.
I saw it because I met my husband when we were in college. It was 1980. We met in 1987, 80, 87. Yeah. And we were seeing U2. We started off seeing U2 every tour from then together. And the movies, we went to the theaters to see Rattle and Hum. And
Yeah.
we have showed our kids Rattle and Hum. And we, in fact, took them to a theater when they played it as a one nighter.
Yeah.
So
And
seeing
they
them,
tolerate it.
it was a double. It was a double, I guess, a double feature. They were doing, this is so weird as I think about it now. Maybe they sold them as separate tickets, but we saw Rattle and Hum and might have been the Hannah Montana movie, something like that, something that would appeal to
Yeah.
them. Yeah.
Oh,
Of
how
course,
funny.
when they listen to this, I'm probably completely misremembering, and they'll
Yes.
correct me, but
Well,
that's okay.
the we went to see Bruce in Louisville, Kentucky, and Justin Bieber was performing the like 2 days before or the day before. I can't remember, but the the crowd was filled with people loving Justin Bieber. And we talked to a couple, and some parents were like, yeah, I sat through Justin Bieber and now then my kid's got to sit through Springsteen. Or I'm leaving
That's
the kid in the hotel room and we were able to knock out two things on this trip, right? We one for the kids and one for us. And
that's a
I said
score.
that is a score. That is great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk a little podcasting.
Okay.
So I want to hear your version of it. Why did you let's first describe what the podcast is and then tell me your version of the origin story, which I'm sure is right along, right?
Yeah. Yes. Probably we're in sync about this. And Dave and I, sorry, my podcast. Okay.
Yeah, the
Please
name of the
edit this.
podcast. That's okay.
the,
Yes, we will.
the name of the podcast is What Difference Does It Make? And although when we're online, we say, What Difference Does It Make podcast? Because there is another podcast out there called What Difference Does It Make? So we want to differentiate by saying podcast.
Yes.
And it is an 80s, a mostly 80s music podcast. We talk to the artist. We veer off. We are mostly 80s. We talk to the artists, anyone who has, not just anyone, but a lot of authors who have written books about 80s artists that have written memoirs, directors like Susan Seidelman, for example, who directed Desperately Seeking Susan. So a lot of filmmakers, TV people, and some of our favorite bands we've spoken to, we've been lucky enough to talk to. But we do veer off. We'll talk 70s. We talk to the immediate family, and that was great. But that's a little more 70s. We'll do 90s also. We get into the 90s, but it's mostly, that's why we call it a mostly 80s podcast, or a mostly 80s music podcast.
So I'm really impressed with the podcast. I love listening to it. I'm
Thank
also in
you.
awe of the amount of how high quality guests you get. I love my guest. I love that my bread and butter is just the average fan joining me and telling their story, and there's nothing better. But every once in a while, I'd like somebody a little. So, is your background in radio help that?
Thank you. Thank you for saying so. Yes, we also do, and I'm sure maybe your listeners have heard this because Dave explained it. We kick off every year looking at the songs that K Rock, our
Yeah.
alternative station, played. We do 106.7 songs, and we do them in 10 song chunks, and we invite radio people that we know. And my business was global, my radio business. So we have people come from all over the world, and they look at the songs with us. And so we talk to a lot of radio people. Dave and I both were in the radio business. So together we know a lot of people, but a lot of people in that area of the business. But as far as we've been doing this for 2018, almost 8 years
Hmm.
now. And we didn't the first year or so we did it mostly ourselves. We didn't have guests, and then we started reaching out. We reached out to publicists, and we're very niche. If you have an 80s, some connection to the 80s, there's no reason our listenership is not, we're not Joe Rogan, obviously,
Yeah.
but
None of
we're
us are. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So now we are lucky enough that a lot of the publicists, when their 80s artists are coming through, have something going on, a tour, a book, new music, they contact us. And Dave does most of the booking. I do some of the radio people, but he does a lot of the booking, and he's
Mhm.
really persistent. He's much more assertive than I am. I am not that way at all. But they come to us now, and we're really lucky. Not all of them. He makes a lot of calls and sends a
Yeah.
lot of emails. And I'm so grateful to him. I'm grateful that one of our personalities is like that. And yeah,
Why did you guys decide to do this together?
so we went to college together, but years passed because we graduated from college in 1988, 88, 89. He called me up out of the blue in 20. We'd been in touch. Obviously, we've been friends, and
Yeah.
he and my husband they knew each other in high school. He reached out to me. He called me up. This was in May of 2018, and just said, I don't even know if he said it's Dave, but he said, "Do you want to do an 80s music podcast?" And I said, "Yeah, I do." So I'm thinking, I know nothing. I really knew very little about the podcasting as a business. And I don't listen to too many podcasts, but I thought that we would prepare, we would research, we would figure out what equipment we needed. But he's, no, let's get together in a couple days. I had just gone to see you two, and we had no equipment. I know people who record on their phones,
Yeah.
do like even professional voiceovers who do it on their phones. So we got together and we recorded an episode, our first episode, and he probably has it in the archives somewhere. I don't think you can find it on podcasts or any app, any platform. Thankfully, it wasn't, we yammered on. We didn't know how to edit yet. We didn't know, we had barely even decided what our goal would be, what our plan was, but we did 3 episodes like that. And then we just evolved. I don't really remember. We must have done a lot of research into equipment. Dave was also doing, at the time, he was doing a radio show for a platform, an online radio platform called Dash. So he did it in their studio, which is in Hollywood, not far from here. And they were kind enough to let us do our podcast there, and we didn't have to pay for the studio time. So that changed the sound quality immensely. He figured out all the technical end of it, editing, everything. He learned how to use the board we use. We both worked in radio, and he also did. I'm sure he told you. But we recorded there, and we even had our first few guests there. And sometime, I think during the pandemic, they shut down. They were going to change their whole Dash. I'm not sure what happened, but we weren't able to use it anymore. But at the same time, as I'm sure during the pandemic was when everyone started using Zoom, we discovered Zoom, we figured out how to use it. All these artists, all these guests were available to us because they weren't touring, they weren't really doing anything. They were starting to put out music. So we were able to talk to so many artists on Zoom. We now use Riverside. I edit the video for us and I do the social media for us. I find Riverside easier. But
I haven't played with that yet. Do you recommend it?
I do. I think it's really what it does for how it assists you with the editing. I was doing something really primitive when I was editing with Zoom, with QuickTime, and it was really labor intensive. So yes, I do highly recommend playing around with Riverside.
I will do that.
Yeah, so the pandemic really benefited our podcast. We were able to improve the quality of our access to guests was just off the charts. And so I can't even remember those, other than the U2 episode, those first few episodes in 2018. Literally from the time he called me, I think we did our first episode a week later, a few days later.
I'm a big fan of that. I get asked every once in a while advice about podcasting, and I said, first off, make sure your topic is broad enough that you don't run out of things to talk about.
Yeah.
If it's too niche, secondly, make sure it's a topic that you enjoy talking about, that if no one listens, you still want to record it, right?
Yeah.
And I have a podcast that I do every Sunday morning, and we get less than 100 downloads. We get nothing. But Lou, Karen, and I, that's our Sunday morning. We talk every Sunday morning. We went through Babylon 5. We're now going through The Expanse. We go through just we take turns like, okay, Karen's, I want to talk the Barbie movie. Will you guys talk the Barbie movie? Sure, we'll talk the Barbie movie. So it is just an excuse to hang out with two of my friends. And
that's so fun.
Yeah. And the third advice I said is just do it. I don't want to sound like Nike, but your first episodes are going to suck. Yeah. But that's okay, because if you keep waiting to be perfect, you're never going to do it. So start recording. You'll learn. You'll get better. You'll figure out what you may think you have a format, but as you go, it'll expand. And at this point, as you saw, I sent you, here's my normal agenda. Yeah. This is the bare bones of what my podcast is, but we go off anywhere. But it gives my guest a little idea. Oh, okay, this is what I think he's going to talk about. So good for you guys.
That's great advice. It is great advice. And now with this in my rearview mirror, I would say the same. I couldn't have imagined that it would become this. I remember back when we started, I had heard, and I don't know if this is an actual statistic, but somebody told me, somebody in the radio business who was like moving towards podcasting said that the average someone who starts a podcast, the average amount of episodes they put out is 10 before they stop, because they realize it's so hard to monetize if you're looking at it as a business. Yeah. If you have to make money, it's not coming right away. No. And maybe never
Yeah.
if you never get big. So you really have to be passionate. You have to have the ability to do the work if you want to.
Yeah. The Terry Smith, who did a wonderful podcast, he did it for about 100 episodes. It was a brilliant podcast. I really harassed him they didn't do it. It was Music Talks. And the premise was he'd invite you, Holly, and he'd say, okay, pick a song from every decade you've been alive. I was born in 59, so I had to pick a six for the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s on the way. And by picking a song, you don't have to be your favorite song, that just it's a song, and you end up telling the story of your life via music. Absolutely beautiful. But he was in the UK and he attended a seminar and someone said their phrase was seven, that the average podcast ends at seven.
Okay.
So 7, 10, close enough.
Yeah.
That's basically, so if you can get over that, right, you're at least doing that. And it helps if you like your co-host and it likes if you're having fun.
Yeah. Why do it if it's not something that you're passionate about?
Yeah.
You're like wasting your time. I love this. I knew I would always like talking about 80s music and 80s
Yeah.
artists, anything 80s pop culture, but I love doing the podcast. I love learning. I love that we've learned how to do this and how to make it better. But it's so much fun. It's just fun. And I agree with you about you mentioned the tangents. We go off on tangents with everybody. And I spent a lot of years, a handful of years worrying about that. I read every book. I read if we're going to talk to somebody, I read it in full.
Yeah.
Any good interviewer, right? But sometimes I don't have questions and we just go where the conversation takes us about the book and the process. And it always works out. But I always feel, oh gosh, should I be more prepared? Even to this day. But it's worked out and we've had some
Yeah.
guess that it was a little harder to get it out of, but overall it's been so delightful and I'm grateful for Dave. I'm grateful for how we plowed into it and he's a great partner. I think we balance each other really well.
There's a local sports guy named Norm Hitzges, and gosh, probably 20 years ago, he was on the radio and he said, if you ask Nolan Ryan, the famous baseball pitcher,
Mhm.
about his no hitters, which is he's had more no hitters than anyone else, you'll get probably just some few boring sentences. If you ask Nolan about the home runs he's hit, his face lights up and he will talk a mile a minute. And I've used that kind of as a goal that if you get someone that do they really want to talk about the thing they always talk about? But if you can find something else to talk to them about it, maybe what they're passionate about, like
Yeah.
what music drove them to go out and pick a guitar or to do that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. For us, it's talking about the music. One of my favorite guests that we've had was Moon Unit Zappa,
Oh,
who
I bet that was a great, yeah.
we've had her on twice. One was for when she released her memoir, and the second was to talk about some of the K rock music. So she's our age; she might be a year or two younger than me. She grew up in the same. She's from our neighborhood. She grew up with the same music, and we've had this a lot. But people, when they're done, our guests, whoever it is, whether it was a director or somebody involved in radio, they have commented that they really enjoyed talking about the music. Like it was so much fun. Not that we're so great, but getting to talk about this music that we were all so passionate about in some way and just share stories. And that's probably the most rewarding thing, right? When someone tells you that they loved talking about this.
Yeah,
And
nothing makes me happier than, especially if someone's nervous and then they'll they'll give it, no one's ever asked me that, Jesse, or I hadn't thought about that, or I forgot I was being recorded. I
yeah, yeah,
always say that.
yeah.
Yeah, it's just a conversation.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
What surprised you the most about doing this as a podcaster?
That's that is a very good question. I am surprised. Not that I'm not sure why I would be surprised about this, but when people talk about one of the questions that is always asked that's from somebody who might just be starting a podcast is about monetization.
Yeah.
And there are so many, there are a variety of different ways to monetize your podcast, but I didn't expect to be making a fortune. But it's like the Wild West. When we started, it was like the Wild West, and how ultimately difficult it is. I think people's perception is any podcast that is on the air and has done more than their 10 episodes has to be making money. I know people don't like talking about money, but that is something related to podcasts. That is always a question. I'm sure you get it that people ask you off the record. Yeah.
And the question, right, is how many downloads you get, right? And
Yeah.
it's not as many as I want, but
Yeah.
and do you find sometimes people are reluctant to join you guys?
We have people, nobody, once they come on, once
Yeah.
they're on, they're no longer reluctant.
Yeah.
We haven't really, when we've had no's, when we've had people say no, it's either because we don't have a big enough, they're too big of an artist and that we don't have enough
Yeah.
downloads for them. But we're targeting our, we're an 80s podcast. We're not looking to go so far out that you wouldn't be
Yeah.
interested if we had enough to offer you. So those are the only, yeah, those are probably the no's. We are not big enough for them. And
Uh,
I understand that.
Yeah, I get a few people that say I don't have an interesting story, and I push
Yeah.
back everyone has a story. It's good. I've only had one really crappy experience. I reached out to someone that had written a Springsteen book, and I said, "Hey, would you want to join me on the podcast?" And she was like, "Why would I be on your podcast?" No. And it really pissed me off. Like all you had to say is no, thank you. I just don't want to. I'm not interested. I'm great.
That's
The
gross.
and every time I see them, I'm being very careful, posting, they're just an arrogant ass. They did an article about they ranked the 100, in their opinion, the 100 most greatest Springsteen songs. And like the songs that were 100, 99, 98, they were just almost disgusted with them. Like how this is horrible. And it is when I get someone if they're too busy or they're too shy, but
Yeah.
no, I just don't get that at all.
It's so disrespectful. Why would you be intentionally disrespectful? Yeah.
All you got to say is, no, it's not for me. Okay, great. No
Yeah.
problem. Now, I'm not too pushy, but I am saying if you change your mind, think like I did that with you. I said, I really think you'll have a fun time, Holly.
Yeah.
I said, no pressure, but I think we'd have fun. And you went, okay, we'll do it.
If I must have given off a different vibe than I intended. I totally wanted to do it, but I felt very intimidated. My Springsteen, and I do have some Springsteen stuff, which I will
Okay.
share with you if you're interested.
Yes, please.
But I was intimidated to talk about Springsteen. I would talk about music all day and,
Oh,
artists that I know about, but I just felt, especially with you, I know you're doing this obviously, and I know Dave's level of fandom.
yeah,
So felt that I would have much less to, I wouldn't have been a valuable contributor. That's how I felt. But about music, about any
yeah.
other, I was thrilled that you asked me back. I was really happy to do it. So
Good.
thank you. Thanks for letting
No,
me blather on for so long.
no, I love it. There is a podcast that does Diss List. It's from the Brandom Randall Fest, and basically the premise is a guest joins with a top 10 list, and then the two guests debate it. And I sent in saying I'd really love to talk top 10 80s pop rock stars. Do you have a
Hmm.
list?
Oh God. This is funny. Dave will attest to this. I can't pick. If you say pick 10, I can't narrow it down from 20. If you say pick one, I can't pick one of anything.
Yeah.
Anything that
Okay.
you ask me my favorite, there is always going to be more than one. 80s pop, does that include like new wave or is it like Richard Marx or what
Yeah,
are you
I
looking
think
for?
I
Anything.
think dealer's choice. Like to me, the Mount Rushmore is Prince, Springsteen, Madonna, Michael Jackson.
Okay. Yeah,
Now,
I
not
I
necessarily my favorites, obviously Bruce is, but when you look at 80s pop rock and roll,
yes.
you're that excludes soul and that includes country music and that includes wave a lot, but just when I was thinking in general terms, those would be the top four. But so I sent that list and I picked who And I thought it would make for a fun discussion.
Yeah. Oh, so you're not talking about your favorites necessarily. You're just
Yeah.
talking about how you think that the
Yeah,
top
like if
80s
yeah,
artists.
like if we wanted to rank for whatever metric you want to do, whether it's concert sales, pop
Yeah.
culture, influence. So
That's very fair. That's fair. Madonna for sure. Yeah, Michael Jackson, Prince, you're right.
Tina
Springsteen,
Turner.
yes. Yeah, yeah.
So
Oh my gosh. As far as grow, whatever the metric is, see, I would love to stick Duran in there because I think they're a very impactful 80s band,
oh yeah,
right?
I
Yeah.
I definitely think that.
Yeah. Even the Stones in the 80s. And yeah, I would always go for the new wave now, like the Go-Go's, but as far nobody outside of they were bigger here in my region than most other places. I know they did well in Europe also, so it's not fair to lump them in,
Yeah.
I think, with Madonna, but I would put them up there.
So I said in no particular order, George Michael Wham, Cyndi Lauper, Tina Turner, Phil Collins Genesis, U2, Billy Joel, Michael Jackson, Prince, Madonna, Springsteen.
I would agree with all of those. That's yeah, for sure. Those yes.
But you're
Yeah.
right, Duran certainly could
Yeah.
deserve on the list, right? I actually had a guest join me, and now my listeners are going, "You've just quit doing a podcast. You're just talking to Holly." I go, "Yes, that's what I've done." But I had a guest that she loved Duran. And so we talked about, and she brought all the numbers that Duran, and I brought all the Springsteen, and we just had a fun time about debating which one is. And we, of course, ended up saying, "But you can't judge this, you're right. They're just, it's who you love."
It's subjective.
Yeah.
It is completely subjective. As far as grossing ticket sales or album
Yeah.
sales, that's different. But as far as your favorite or what you feel has had the biggest impact, that's the impact on you.
Yeah. Mark Evanier is a writer who has done a lot of comics. He's worked in TV, and he told the story that he was in Vegas and a friend of his said, "Hey, are you doing anything tonight?" She says, "I have a ticket for a show, but you have to agree to go before I tell you who it is." And he says, "Okay." And it was Barry Manilow. And he said, "I don't have a problem going to see Barry Manilow." And he said he was sitting in the audience and a couple was talking about how they fell in love to his music. And
Mm.
he said, if I was a musician, that would mean more to me than any Grammy, any road
Yeah.
record. Someone to
Yeah.
say, I fell in love to your music would
Yeah.
be the happiest thing ever. The other funny story he said is he'll hear friends of his who make music, Manilow's easy. That's easy music. And Mark says, I always want to go, oh, well, I really admire your strength that if it's so easy, you could make millions of dollars and you refuse not to
Yeah.
because you don't want to be that easy.
Yeah. That has to be because there's nothing easy about any of that. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
exactly.
Maybe they make it look easy. Did you
Yeah.
like I saw the show in Vegas too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've seen him 3 or 4 times. He was in 70s. It was I owned every Barry Manilow 8
Hmm.
track and I loved the music. I It was hilarious. It was fun. I That's great. What haven't you done with a podcast that you want to do?
Oh, guests. We just would love to have the caliber of guests. We have had high caliber
Yeah,
guests, not
sure.
but more of them, more of for me, more of my
Yeah,
favorite artists that we
yeah,
just haven't had yet. I want to be better about social media, about engaging listeners and
yeah,
viewers on social media. Other things I want you researching ways to get more eyes and ears, obviously. But as far as the podcast itself,
yeah,
just the guests, I feel like we are on the right for us. We are on the
yeah.
right track.
Yeah, I would love more feedback. I would love
Yeah.
more. I do a Doctor Who podcast, and we get 3 to 4 emails every episode. We tell them in advance that this is the episode we're going to talk about. And we have about 4 or 5 regular listeners that send an email every time to say, I watched the episode too. Here are my thoughts. And so I would love for people to say, oh, I loved your discussion with Holly, and here's
Hmm.
what my top 10 80 artists would be, right?
Yes.
But I, and yeah, I will definitely cut this out. I work full time. I don't have time to try to do this. And I realize they're a business and they need to do this. And I'm very grateful. I was independent for
Yeah.
before. I paid my own hosting fees and all. I'm
Mm.
very grateful for this. But I just don't know if that's something I want to do,
Yeah.
or if I have time to do it.
And also, yes, at the time, and I think it is a lot of time, but also how much better is it like what our podcast is? How much better is that stuff going to make our podcast? Is that going
Yeah.
to, I don't see gaining listeners from doing this. What we do is
Yeah.
niche. And
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
there are there are there are a couple other Springsteen podcasts, and but mine is, I'm just talking to people that love music.
yeah,
Whether it's, I had a couple of guys that were active in trying to get Cyndi Lauper in the Hall of Fame, and I
yeah,
love that episode. I
yeah.
love getting different music. By the way, Jake Thistle has been on a couple of times. He is going to be on American Idol this year.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so he's a young singer-songwriter from New Jersey. He's built a kind of local following. Big John Hyatt fan, big Springsteen fan, big Tom Petty fan. He's been, ever since he was 10 or 12, has been doing videos of him covering songs. And so they announced he's going to be on American Idol this year. So
Oh,
I will watch American Idol for the first time ever
yeah.
to cheer for Jake. So,
That's great. That is so nice. That's exactly. So I always say when people ask about the podcast, you're not listening to hear David and I. You're listening because you're interested in either the topic that week or the
yeah,
guest that week, which we do. We've been getting a little bit more feedback on stuff like that. And I love the comments on, not so
yeah,
much on these platforms, but on social media.
yeah, me
And
too.
yeah, more of that would be
Yeah.
just engagement.
Let's talk Bruce a little bit. Tell me your Bruce stories.
Okay, wait. Can I tell you
Okay,
one more?
yes, please.
Of course, something that occurred to me that I did not say about you two. One of the highlights, one of the
Yeah.
fabulous memories. I saw them at the Sphere,
Oh,
and it was spectacular. It was as great as everyone says. And I went, my husband and two friends, and we were standing on the floor, and I was about 5 feet from the stage, maybe 10 feet from the stage. I was right there, and the show was just, I can't come up with enough adjectives for it. So that of course was a highlight.
yeah.
Yeah, the visuals, everything about it. And
And there is such a connection between them and Bruce. Oh, when Bono was sick, Bruce sang a couple of
yeah.
songs with him at a live show. Bono is the one who introduced him for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. There is just this connection between them.
I get that. Their I don't know their personalities, but
Yeah,
what they stand for,
yeah,
they their social
yeah,
justice causes are
yeah.
would be aligned. So I get that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
every Super Bowl, there's the discussion about who is the greatest halftime show all time, and my my friends, of course, will say Bruce, right? And I will say I loved Bruce, but I think Prince and U2 might have something to discuss with you. When U2, after 9/11 and the names, it was chilling.
I forgot about that. God,
Yeah.
how could I forget about that? That's so
Yeah.
impactful.
And he had the American flag in his
Yeah.
jacket. It just, yeah. And then a
Yeah.
Prince. It's raining when he's doing Purple Rain.
Yeah. I gotta say, I don't know that everyone would agree with me, and I can't say it's the best one ever, but the old school rap artist, that was also
It
quite
was,
spectacular.
yeah, I had a lot of friends that said this brought me back to high school. Oh, I thought it
Yeah.
was brilliant. I thought it was
Yeah.
great. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
All right, so some Bruce stories. And
All
am
right.
I keeping you okay? We've gone
Um,
almost an hour.
no, I'm good.
No,
I'm
I'm good
perfect,
too.
guys. Okay.
Yeah, I'm having a blast.
Yes, me too. Thank you. This has been great. This has been really fun.
Yeah, thanks.
I saw them. I saw Bruce, not them. I saw Bruce in my parents, I believe, had seen him, Bruce, and the E Street Band before, and
Yeah,
they had the albums. They did Nebraska, Darkness on the Edge of Town, all that. So that was my first expo. I was first exposed to Bruce that way, and you just absorb it. It's not like I took the
right.
records and listened to them myself, but you absorb it when it's on. So I know that they had seen Bruce, and I didn't see him until 1999 when the Staples Center our a venue here opened, Staples
Yeah.
Center. I think you and Dave probably talked about this as well. Dave had seen Bruce long before, but that was my first. And was that my first? Was the Seeker Sessions, was that was after 1999? What year was the Seeker
Yeah, that
Session?
would be after 99. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, of course it was. So I saw him at Staples Center, and I am a big enough fan to enjoy the 3 hours, but I don't know that I would have gone because he did a few nights. I
Hmm.
don't know that I would have gone another night. It was a great, fantastic show. So
Did
glad I went.
you do you try to do multiple U2 nights if they're doing multiple shows?
I think I have, but I don't. And I don't know why. I can't even give you a reason for that because I'm telling you, I mentioned that my husband is a Rush,
Hmm.
was a huge Rush fan, and Evanescence, who he and my daughter, they will travel around for. I have done multiples of those shows with them, but you too. I think if I could have gone to the Sphere every weekend that they did their residency, I would have.
Yeah.
But no, I've seen a few. I believe I've seen, there have been tours that I have seen a few, but I didn't make it a point to go every night. Yeah.
Yeah. How many times have you seen Bruce?
So the only other time I saw Bruce was the Seeker sessions. I took my parents, or we went together because not only were they huge Bruce fans, they were Pete Seeger. They were big folkies too.
What'd you think of that show?
I thought it was great. I thought it was really, I loved seeing it. I know it's not your typical Bruce Springsteen show, but I really enjoyed it. And I also like the music. I grew up listening
Yeah.
to him too.
I was not necessarily a fan of the album. I thought it was okay, but doing this podcast, I realized why. Bruce does not sing Froggy Went a Courtin' the way my dad did, so therefore Bruce is wrong, and I can't get over that. But when they did the Live in Dublin DVD, of course, I'm physical media, anything
Yeah.
Bruce, I'm getting. And my best friend Sam said that it was as close to a religious experience as he had had, seeing that Seeger sessions and just hearing them.
Wow.
So I think it's a great show. And when he did Western Stars live, they filmed that beautiful film. I don't know if you've ever seen it,
No.
but it's worth watching. He has this huge barn at his ranch there in Jersey, and they set up a band including strings, and he did the whole album live, the whole Western Stars album, which is
Yeah.
Glenn Campbell-ish
Yeah.
and not Jimmy Rogers, but yeah, anyway. And so my only regret was he did Rhinestone Cowboy, and I had wished he had done three or four traditional Springsteen songs with the style of that with that orchestra and everything.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
because I think some of the best things were like Blinded by the Light, that with the Seeger stand and everything, that it was
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny that I think we talked about this. Your, the things that you love about music isn't necessarily always just the music itself, but it's the memories that go along with it. Like you
Yes.
have, and my parents, I would have loved the Seeger sessions anyway,
Yeah.
because like I said, I listened to Pete Seeger with my parents,
Yeah.
and but my kids are now, they're 23 and 27.
Yeah.
We used to take road trips, and my kid, or they used to take road trips with my kids also, and they would put it on the Seeger session. So my kids would sing Erie Canal. So I have a soft spot in my heart for this, probably because of that, also because of the connection. They, to this day, they'll put some of the songs on their own playlist.
My son had graduated from college and he had his first real job, not waiting
Mhm.
tables or
Yeah.
working at a retail store. And it was actually for the same company I worked for. And his annual review was coming up, and he was pretty proud of the work he'd done and was hoping for a big raise. And so I Pay Me My Money Down, that song.
Pay me. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so to this day, like when it's review time, he'll send me the clip of that song and I'll send it. So that's a shorthand for us. So yeah,
That's great.
yeah.
Yep.
When Merle Haggard died, I felt like I lost my dad all over again
Yeah.
because of
Hmm.
that strong memory. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. When I felt that way when Gordon Lightfoot died.
Yeah. Oh, I can
Yeah.
imagine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just that's it. What should I have asked you that I haven't, Holly?
I feel like we covered a lot.
I
We
feel like we did too. I will have fun editing this.
I, I know.
Oh,
Feel
no, it's a
free. I know
joy.
I've
Yeah.
blathered on quite a bit.
No, no,
I'm
no.
looking.
We just went all through all kinds of tangents.
It's good at the tangent. Like you said,
Yeah.
the tangents could be the best part.
Yeah.
No,
Is there
I
any U2 song you haven't heard live you want yours chasing?
that's a very good question. I actually look to see. I'm really not great with this stuff. I can't
Yeah.
remember. Did they play? Sometimes I'll have to ask my husband, did they play that? I can't remember. And they always, so no, I can't. To answer that question, no, I
Yeah.
can't think of a song that I haven't heard. But I did go back because have you ever seen U2
Yeah.
live?
No, I haven't. It is on my list of things I'm disappointed in myself. So I'm
Uh,
hoping next time. Yeah.
I hope you have the opportunity because they
Yeah.
will always put on a spectacular show.
Absolutely.
But they always end with 40. There's a song 40, and they walk off. Bono will walk off the stage, and then each of them walks off the stage separately, and the rest of the instrument until there's no instruments left. And I found when I was doing I went back and looked at some playlists recently to see what I'd seen, what I might have missed. They always, they didn't, I guess it was in 2016, they took a break from ending with 40 and they were ending with Sweetest Thing, which is one of my favorite songs.
Okay.
One of my favorite songs. And it was a B-side. And so they ended with that for a few years. And now I think they're back to ending with 40.
So
That,
yeah, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
So the first 7 times I saw Bruce, he'd never done Thunder Road, which we're going to get to in
Mm,
a few
mhm.
minutes. And then, so the first time I heard him do it live, I was just like thrilled. And he did the Suicide song Dream Baby Dream. He's done a version of that that's amazing. And so he was either ending the show with Thunder Road or Dream Baby Dream. And Dream Baby Dream is another family private joke. We were going to Louisiana to see my parents, and we were driving around, and I said, "Oh, Bruce has a new song out." And so we played Dream Baby Dream, and my wife goes, "That's stupid. What? That's a horrible song. It's just the same thing over and over again."
Oh,
And so my son from the back seat says, "No, no, play it again, Dad." So I played it again, and Linda said, "Oh, wait a minute. Play it again?" And so 5 or 6 times, Linda's, "That's a beautiful prayer. I love this song." And
oh,
my son, so that has become one of our family traditions. If we're going to do something, and so I really wanted to see it live. And every show, I went to 4 shows on that tour. He did Thunder Road each time. And I'm like, I can't complain about hearing Thunder Road, but I wanted Dream Baby Dream just once.
oh, that's so lovely. See, there is something I love talking to people about what a song, just a totally different interpretation of how you hear it.
Yeah,
That's so
it is.
cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And by the way, I was totally wrong about Sweetest Thing. I just went and looked at my notes. They ended with one.
Okay.
The time they weren't ending with 40, which is another song.
Oh, I adore that song.
Love that song. And that also, The Joshua Tree is probably my favorite U2 album.
Yeah,
It's a lot of people's favorite U2
sure.
album, but it was released at the time that I met my husband when we were in college. So it's those things are intertwined for me. I think I would feel that album was a perfect album all the way through, even if it didn't have something to do with my husband. That is it is a flawless album.
Oh, I
Um,
agree.
but
It,
yes,
yeah, yeah. I
one,
just, yeah, love that. Yeah, yeah, I totally agree.
yeah.
All right, I have kept you too long, but before I let you go, Holly, I do have to end with the Mary question. So every guest I have, I ask this. Jay Armstrong, who was an honors English teacher in the Philadelphia area, he's now retired and is a full-time writer, but when he was teaching, he would give his students the lyrics to Thunder Road, and they would read it as if it was a poem discussing the imagery and themes Bruce explores in the lyrics. And then he would ask his class, does Mary get in the car? So, Holly, there is no right answer, but I want to know your opinion. Do you think Mary gets in the car at the end of Thunder Road?
I think Mary gets in the car. First, I want to say I read the lyrics. I listened to the song when I was preparing for this, and it made me cry. The song made me cry. I thought of my parents. I read the lyrics, which I'm not the biggest lyric person. I'm more about the music,
Sure.
but it made me cry. Yes, I think Mary gets in the car. I
Absolutely.
do. I think, yes, I think she believes in him. I think she wants to get out.
Yeah.
I'm going with yes, she got in the car.
Perfect.
Do
All
you
right.
have a feeling about it?
Yeah, I'm an optimist. I grew up watching Walt Disney movies where everyone has a happy ending. I absolutely do. It's about 50-50. Half my people say no, she doesn't. A big thing is you ain't a beauty, but hey, you're all right.
Yeah.
That
Yep.
bothers some people. My theory on that is that Mary often puts herself down, and so he is putting that out there to get over that objection. Like it's, oh, I'm not that pretty. Who would want me? And he's saying, hey, I know you're not a beauty, but you're all right. And that's all right with me. Is him, you can't use that as an excuse for why you're not going
Yeah.
with me, in my mind.
That is optimistic. That is very optimistic. And I really like that. And I think I'm going to embrace that for myself. I did have a little issue with that because it
Yes.
was just, and I didn't put as much thought into it, but I
Yeah,
still went with the she was going because she had a whole amalgamation of reasons.
absolutely. If someone wants to reach you and promote the podcast, please.
Ah, thank you. All podcast platforms, of course, and on social media at WDDIM Podcast, and including TikTok, which we're fairly new to. And on YouTube, we post clips of video clips of all our podcasts at What Difference Does It Make podcast.
Very nice. I hope you've had as much fun as I did.
This was
This
so much
is,
fun.
yes.
Thank you
Uh,
so much. I thank you for inviting me on. It was
no,
total delight.
we got to do this again sometimes.
Yes,
So,
for sure. There are plenty of other artists I'd be happy to chat with you about. If you can pick some,
absolutely.
I could pick some.
That's good. Yeah, I'd love that. Are you a Jason Isbell fan?
I like Jason Isbell. I don't know enough. A friend of mine who lives in Austin turned me on to him a few years ago, but I haven't really embraced him. I haven't listened to too much.
Yeah.
You're,
Yeah, he's my latest musical obsession. I
mm,
went from Brian Wilson to Bruce Springsteen
mm.
and now Jason Isbell and then John Hyatt. I'm a big John Hyatt fan. Yeah, that's one of the other podcasts I do is we're doing John Hyatt from A to Z, every John Hyatt song in alphabetical order, which
Oh,
is fun. That's yeah. And I will cut this out too. Our last episode recorded, he has a song on Slugline called The Negroes Were Dancing. And so Sylvan, who's my co-host, said the key phrase is every song. So we can't
right.
skip a song. So if
Th-
anyone's offended by this word, we apologize. And she did research on where the word came from and how it was meant. And this was like in 78 or 79 when he wrote it. And so this absolutely had no intent, but it was a little,
It's hard to
okay.
say.
Yeah, it is hard to say.
Yeah.
In 2026, it was odd.
Yeah. And it's hard because you can still get called out on it, even though you're talking about a song, somebody
Yeah,
else's work. But yeah,
exactly.
you can
Yeah,
still get called out on it.
yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah. My I haven't done a lot of new music. Not that
Yeah,
John Hyatt is new. A
yeah.
lot of newer music. Only usually when someone sends something to me, if one of my kids says, "Listen to this," or Dave, he's much better about new music. By the way, I think I may have a Bruce fan, a friend who grew up near Asbury Park
Oh,
and is
I'd
very
love him.
connected to New Jersey, and
Hmm.
he's very super articulate and
Oh, great.
probably would have a lot of stories for you.
Good. Are your parents still alive?
No, my mom passed in 2014 and my dad just died last September 2024.
Sorry for the
Yeah.
loss.
Thank you to you
Uh-huh.
too.
I would have, because I was going to say, get your dad on here. That's have you both on there. That would be so much fun. I,
Oh, that would be
I've done that. I just did that
fun.
where I had a dad and a daughter join me. And I've done that a couple of times, and that's always fun. That that generation, right?
Yeah.
That you
Yeah.
that came from and sharing. So that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw that. I haven't listened to it, but I saw that you did a dad and daughter.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
listen.
there's a lot to do. All right, listeners, go check out the podcast. Check out the TikTok. That's something I need to do. Holly, please be safe. Take care of yourself, and let's do this again soon, okay?
Thank you, Jesse. You too. Take good care. And yeah, see you soon, I hope.
All right. Listeners, be safe, be kind, and we'll talk to you soon. Goodbye. Thank you for listening to this episode of Set Listing Bruce. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you'll check out other episodes of the podcast. Before we wrap up, I've got a few quick housekeeping notes on how you connect with me and follow my other projects. I'm still on Twitter, aka X, at Jesse Jackson DFW. The show is also there at Set Listing Bruce. We've got a Facebook page both for me and the podcast, so please stop by and give us a like. I'm part of a few other podcast adventures as well. On Perfectly Good Podcast, my co-host Sylvan and I are talking about every John Hyatt song in alphabetical order. Both Set Listing Bruce and Perfectly Good Podcast are proud members of the Pantheon Podcast Network, home to hundreds of music folk shows. So explore, there's something there for every fan. My good friend Charles and I continue to do deep dives into all things Doctor Who on Next Stop Everywhere. And Lou, Karen, and I are chatting about pop culture and The Expanse on JKL Media. I'd love to hear from you. Email me at setlistingbruce@gmail.com. You can also leave a voicemail, 469-249-2442. If you've enjoyed any part of this podcast, please head over to iTunes and leave a rating or review. If you listen on Spotify, you can leave a comment after each episode. I will read them and share them on the show if you'll let me. They truly do help other people find us. Tell me what you like. Tell me what you don't. Suggest someone you think would be a great guest. Getting to talk to people about their experiences, whether it's music or other creative passions, is one of my greatest joys. I hope these conversations bring you a little joy, a little peace, and a whole lot of love. Keep hope alive.